Run, party, repeat. Welcome to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert podcast, where we talk all things running, racing, and training to help you get ready for your next big adventure.
Learn from our successes and our failures, and have fun at the same time. Join us right here every week with inspiring guests who share their captivating tales from the trails. And remember, nobody cares.
Run faster. All right, welcome back. This is East Coast Adventures with the Dirt and Vert podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
And I'm Mike.
And we have a guest today with us who has a pretty amazing story. Her ultra running journey started in 2017 and really took a different direction in 2018, leading her down a path of going for 100 milers, with Rosie starting that journey in 2018. As of today, you've already completed 73 of those. Mm-hmm. So, Rosie Gagnon, if you don't care, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got into running.
All right. I'm Rosie Gagnon, and I'm a mom of 8. And I started running years ago, 2-3 miles a day, just to stay in shape and, keep that baby weight off. And kids got older, and my oldest son joined the Marine Corps. And while he was serving in the Marine Corps, he got sick. He had an onset of a mental illness. It wasn't diagnosed at the time, but started having a lot of problems and suicide ideation. And so while I was dealing with that, I started running, going from 3 miles to 8 miles to half marathons, and just started increasing my miles just to deal with like the emotional stress of having, this mental health crisis. And he actually challenged me. I ran a 50 miler and 250 milers in 2017 and had never heard 100 milers. But when I did, he was in the hospital actually during the suicide crisis. And he's like, well, if you can do 50, Mom, you can do a 100 miler. And I thought that was kind of crazy. But I thought, well, okay, I'll start training for that. And then while I was training for my first 100 miler, he died by suicide, took his life, and shot himself. And that was just completely catastrophic. So, of course, I went into my first 100 miler, which was about 2 months after he passed away. That was February 25th, 2018. Having gone through a funeral and just getting through those early days of that trauma, I attempted it. I wanted to run it in his honor. I totally DNF'd and just crashed so hard, but it was a really good experience for me, because I realized trying to do that first 100 miler that your brain can reach a point where you can't go on anymore, and you can't convince yourself to go on. And that was just helped me wrap my head around, the fact that he had reached a point where he didn't feel like he could go on anymore. And so I licked my wounds and signed up for another one, like 3 weeks later, and finished my first. And the feeling of running through that was so amazing. So I ran a couple more. I DNF'd I finished one out of my first 4 or 5. They were all DNFs, but I wanted to do it because there's something really powerful in the training and getting out there and trying to do something that just really was so hard. And there was very little else that you could do to kind of work through those emotions, kind of purge them out of your system. So eventually I figured it out, and probably my 5th or 6th 100 miler that I finished, I thought I'm going to do 100 of these, and in his memory and for veteran suicide awareness. And it was kind of silly because I'm just this mom, and I didn't know how to do anything at the time except get out of bed and put on my shoes and, barely surviving. But I laminated a picture of him, and I actually came in contact with a couple veterans groups that honor through action and through miles, 22 Too Many and Wear Blue, Run to Remember, and was really inspired by, their efforts to honor heroes who've fallen and to do it through physical activity and that kind of physical sacrifice. And so I made that goal, and everybody thought I was crazy. I thought, honestly, it was so hard for me to figure. I thought I can live another 40 years, and I didn't know how I could live that long with the kind of pain you go through when you've lost a child to to suicide. So making a goal like that, it kind of gave me something that I thought, okay, I can work through this and I can survive to do each one. So it just gave me, something to kind of live for, get through those early days, and started ticking them off just with some badly laminated pictures on my pack and my shoes on. And after a while, people started recognizing me a little bit. But anyway, so here I am. I just finished number 73, and it's been 6.5 years since we started the journey.
That is absolutely amazing. I mean, that rough math is, I mean, you've at least done 12 to 14 a year, depending on how those have fallen. So, I mean, you've basically done almost one a month.
Yeah, it started out with 3 or 4 a year, and then I did 6 or 7, and then I pushed it, and I thought I'm going to do 12, and I ended up doing one a month. I ended up doing 16, and then last year I think I did 23. So it's just I exponentially worked my way up to where I was doing 1 to 2 a month. So I'm hoping to get through. I know I'll get 20 done this year. I'm trying to. My goal is to finish by the end of next year. So.
Wow.
So,
jeez, I feel like there's so much here.
God willing.
So,
God willing.
So with your son, that happened in 2018, and then that with him having the belief in you that you could do 100-miler, that kind of sparked this entire journey.
It did. It really did.
That's
so. I mean, he was a Marine, at heart. Like, he was an overweight teenager with bad feet, and he always wanted to be a Marine. And I was just, bless your heart. I don't know if you're going to get there, but he joined MMA when he was a senior in high school and pulled it together. And he became a full mechanic at Ford. And then he did that first while, and got in shape. And then when he was like 20, 21, he joined the Marine Corps. That was what he always wanted to be. And they like to do stupid stuff. So,
Well, that's a pretty cool story in itself, though. The fact that he had to do all that and overcome that just to get in.
Yeah, and we used to talk. I have some letters from him when he was in boot camp, because we were very similar. Like, I'm not like small runner type, and he was kind of big. Not a heavy build, but like 200 pounds and 6 foot or something. Anyway, and so he would say, like, all the guys here are faster than me, but I can go all day long. So sometimes when I'm out, I think, I have little conversations with him, and like, we're gonna finish this. They're all gonna quit because they're going too fast. we know how to stick it out. So.
Did he ever do any type of runs with you?
We did maybe 2 runs together. The last run we did together was we did one on the road. He didn't like to run because he had bad feet. So then he went to the Marine Corps, and he didn't like the running, but he liked the anyway. So we did a trail run on his birthday, his last birthday with us. So yeah.
Is that around the time that he was trying to talk you into doing 100-miler?
That was let's see. It was shortly after that, because he had been sick, and he was diagnosed. He spent some time in the when he was in the Marine Corps. He started having suicide ideation, and he tore his ACL, and he was given opioids, and we believe that it sparked an onset of the combination of like the stress of the Marine Corps and the injury, and the kind of some trauma, because they're not very nice to you in the Marine Corps when you're injured. And he spent a lot of time getting yelled at and sitting in the just sitting and waiting to be treated for days. And anyway, it was kind of bad. So it sparked, he had an onset of bipolar 1 and schizoaffective disorder, which basically, destroyed his military career. So he got out for medical because of that, and just spiraled downhill, ended up in the hospital and getting a full diagnosis And he was very like a fighter, very independent. He didn't want to rely on anyone. He was just as tough as nails. So to get, a diagnosis that he's 100% disabled, always going to be reliant on medicines and people and, and us. And I think that was just, he didn't really have anything else to live for after that, as far as he saw. So.
Well, I could definitely see where he gets the fighter mentality from. He comes by that definitely natural.
Well, thank you.
I mean, he showed that just to be able to get into the Marines. He had to overcome
Yeah,
quite
for
a bit
sure.
to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
So that tragedy happens. You turn into doing your first 100-miler, but at the same time, you have 7 other children that also trying to manage. I mean, I would imagine they're not doing well, and you're trying to do the running. How did you manage all of that in the beginning? That had to be really hard.
Yeah, it was crazy too, because I had a farm too. So they were all school age. So I would get up at like 3 in the morning and do I don't know, a couple hours or sometimes 2, get in 16, 18 miles or something, and get home, get them off to school, take care of the animals, and then sometimes I'd go back out, or usually just really early mornings. And I don't know. I've been blessed with an overactive busyness. I'm always doing something, and that was when I actually realized I should try to run my first marathon. Was I went out and I did like an 8-miler, and then I would work the rest of the day, like hard labor, around the farm. And I was like, why can't I just run? If I'm going to push out around a wheelbarrow of manure, digging doing all this, move hay or whatever, I was like, there's no reason I couldn't run for 4 hours or 5 or however long it would take me. So I just kept doing both.
What do the kids think of mom running 100-mile races?
My youngest just turned 18. So they're kind of out of the house. I have some that are big cheerleaders who've come out and cheered me on and paced me. And I have others that are like boring, the 2 youngest, they were, let's see, my youngest was 12 and Dexter passed away. And so it was kind of hard to, he was actually like a suicide witness survivor. He found his big brother, and that was really traumatic. And so he struggled a lot, and I struggled a lot. The whole family struggled. And so there was good and bad. They liked to come out and would support me, but I think that they also sometimes resented that I spent a lot of time mourning Dexter and not paying attention to them as much, and it's pretty normal. It happens because, when you lose a child like that, it's all consuming. And so it's one of the hardest things like you ever have to do as a parent, to like parent a deceased child and a living child or living children. So it was difficult, but they've always been supportive. But as they got older, they're just like, have fun, good luck, you got another buckle, big deal.
Yeah.
So, that's just mom, she's weird kind of thing. So
yeah, I can't even imagine losing a child and how that impacts you. I mean, the fact of even trying to get up and do things, I would imagine was a burden and was hard. And
yeah.
Do you think that running was your way to deal with it?
I mean, it saved my life, honestly. You just don't want to get up and face another day. And I will always be grateful that the habit of running, the thought of getting up and having to fix breakfast or mow the lawn or, just do the basics was just overwhelmingly hard. But my brain would just be like, get up, put your shoes on, without thinking. It was like a machine, and I would go out and just run. I'd wake up at like 2 in the morning and run a marathon, and just like cry, scream sometimes. I remember one time just, collapsing on the side of the road and a ball and just screaming, and but there's something, and I've learned since, I didn't know that at the time, but running and trail running is actually a very effective EDMR, is that what it's called? Therapy for post-trauma, because it engages, your physical body, your brain, the sights, your processing memories and things. And so it's actually very effective for that. And it was, it was very traumatic. He took his life at home, and, we found him and had to clean up the scene and then just all the burying, went through a whole funeral, and some, you just don't ever get those things out of your head, and
Right.
it's pretty heavy to carry around. So yeah, it's funny because because I was running so much and running 100 miles, I had honestly like relatives or friends who thought I was trying to kill myself by running these crazy races. Like literally they thought I was trying to kill myself, not realizing that honestly was what was like saving my life. It was getting me out and processing it. It was kind of tough.
I would imagine those nights that you broke down in the middle of the morning running, that probably helped you so much just to get some, get away from your kids and get it out where they didn't see it, and you could let it out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It just builds up, and I tried to go to see therapists or counselor or whatever, and I lived in kind of a small town, so we really didn't have anyone that had the kind of experience that I needed, and so that was all I had. It was running, and yeah, like the emotions, there's just so much, and nothing works it out of your system. Like just going all the little things, journaling, or all the little tricks they tell you should do in your grieving. It didn't touch that kind of pain, but but getting out into 100-miler and where it's just so raw physically, it's like a representation of kind of what's going on in your soul, and the two working together gets it all out. And then when you're done, it's such an emotional release, and you feel joy because of the accomplishment. And I found that that every race I do, Dexter's always out there with me, and I feel him. And so it's like something we've, continued our relationship, even though he's not here physically, like he's out running with me, coaching me. So
I think a lot of times, and I've not lost a child. My brother took his life by suicide.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
People want to try to, and they don't know what to say. That's the hard part. And it feels like, through friends, they don't know what to say. And there's not a right thing to say, to be honest. I wouldn't know what to say somebody else. Therapists don't know what to say because, like you said, the journaling, etc. What do you do? It feels like in this way, you found what worked for you. And like you said, the joy at the end of it brought you back to a moment and a happiness with him that no one can take away from you. The next person it may not do anything for, but for you, this is yours.
Yeah, yep, for sure. And I'm sorry about the loss of your brother.
Like I said, it's tough, but like I said, you find that release out there that no one can. I don't even think they would even suggest that. Like you said, people think you're trying to kill yourself.
And you do like people who serve relatives of people who die by suicide. They have like a 10 times the risk of dying by suicide themselves, just because it's such a traumatic experience. And so it's really important to be able to find a way to get, process it and move on. Some people aren't able to do it. Siblings are hard. Everyone knows that the parents are suffering. Siblings are hard because, you live with the grief so many more years than a parent does. And it's often overlooked, So,
because you get the relationship and you think, what can I say to my brother or sister, etc. That type deal, the unknown, when you're young. So
yeah, absolutely. I worry a lot. I still worry about Dexter's siblings because it's something that can always come back. So
yeah, and you said he was really close with one of his brothers there.
Oh, all his brothers. There were 5 boys, 3 girls, and I mean, everybody loved him. He was close to everybody. There wasn't anybody he wasn't close to, and they loved to mess around, wrestle, beat each other up, play games, eat tons of food. Typical boys. They were just a lot of fun, and so yeah, they all miss him. We miss him still. 6.5. It's been 6.5 years, and you still miss him every day.
How old was Dexter when he passed away?
23.
23. And how long had he been
Yeah.
in the Marines at that point? 2 years? 3 years?
A little over a year when he got
A little
sick.
over a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, he put in
So
a
it
lot of
wasn't
work to
long.
make his dream come true.
He
That's
did, yeah. And I remember when he died, because we lived up by DC, going to the day after his funeral, going down to the Marine Corps Memorial, and just feeling that like the one thing he wanted out of life was to be a Marine, and he accomplished it. And, the mental health stole that from him, but it didn't. He did what he wanted to do in life, and just super proud of him for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mental health. It's so scary, and I've heard other stories about opioids and other things where it can
Yeah.
cause that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
Especially,
especially if you have a family history,
yeah,
it really can. It can trigger it. So, and interestingly, a lot of people, you think military and who die by suicide, that they've been in combat, and I mean, those guys have it so rough. Just so much respect for what they face. The majority of military who die by suicide have never been combat. Like more have never been deployed, die by suicide, and so it's not just combat veterans who face suicide. It's just the lifestyle is so stressful that you see it a lot. Mental health problems that aren't addressed,
yeah,
like they should be. So you kind of get a little bit of imposter syndrome. Well, my son served, but one, he wasn't deployed, and then he died by suicide. Is he worthy of honor? And gosh, absolutely, because he lost his mental health while he was, for his country, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of puts you in a unique place where you almost don't feel like you fit in, but you do, because it's a big problem. So,
yeah. Well, and I mean, he put the work in to get there. Like that's
right,
not an easy task to do. I mean, he
right,
was a Marine, and
right.
he got through all of that to get in there. So yes,
Yep,
he
is a Marine.
100%
Yeah, yeah,
needs
yep,
to be honored, and I think
yeah,
from what you're doing as a mother, I mean, you're going to inspire so many people with his story and what you're doing. And I mean, it's when I heard about it, and these guys too, it was just kind of like, wow. I mean, you just all of a sudden went from doing a 50K to now in 6 years you've done over 7,100 milers, and it was not easy for you to start. I mean, you had many failures in the beginning trying
yeah.
to do that. How did you manage to deal with that stress on top of what you're already dealing with trying to finish that first 100 miler? I bet that kind of put a little pressure on you, didn't it? Did you ever get upset about not finishing, or did it put some worry in
Oh,
your?
when I came home, I mean, I cried. If I cried, and I felt like I let him down, and so I just got right back into it. I was like, no, I was determined to do it, and I didn't know that I would want to run another one, but I was going to finish one. But then when I finished it, even though I kept failing, I I knew I could do it. So, and the experience of like crossing that first 100-mile line is just, it's so, I mean, it's like it's like transcendent. You go through the pits of hell, like literally,
Yeah,
and then you conquer it. I
yeah,
think of like Native American Spirit Quest or something. And I felt him with me, like, so much that I felt like if I go out again, his presence is going to be there with me. I feel it other times when I'm not running, but it was very tangible. I mean, and somebody when say your wife or whatever walks in the room and they're standing right behind you and you don't turn around and don't see him, but they're there. You can feel them, and that's what it's like when I'm out there. I mean, I just know he's there, and so I was just hungry to have that experience again. Like, I got to get out there. I want to run miles with him, and so that drove me. Even though I remember my husband at the time was like, you keep not making it. You did really good at 50s. Maybe you should do 50s, but I don't know. There was something about that 100. I mean, I wanted that. I wanted that for him. So, and then I was like, people who, do causes, they think of all these, they petition Congress or, start foundations or raise millions of dollars or whatever. And I thought, well, I can't really do any of those things, but I finished a couple 100-milers. There's no reason I couldn't just keep finishing them. So that was when I concocted the idea. And people would be like, so what are you doing? Oh, you run 100-milers. How many have you done? 11? Wow, you only have 89 more to go. Good luck. And I was like, just wait, I'll show you. I'm going to do it. I know. So I don't get that quite as much anymore, but it is once in a while I will. Somebody said to me recently, I think I'd done 69, and they're like, gosh, well, you still have 31 to go. And I'm like, you have no idea. Like, the last 31 is nothing like the first 31. It's totally different. You got it down. I mean, everyone is hard, but you know how to do it. So it's a lot easier. I mean, not easier, but you can do it. So it's easier to churn them out faster than, instead of showing up at everyone thinking, am I going to survive this? Am I going to DNF it? It's more like, how long is this going to take me?
Yeah.
Like the question
I
of
think
finishing.
you're way ahead of us, or like me. I can speak for it because if I go into one, I'm like, man, I've not done this in a couple of years. What could go wrong? You're just like, oh, it's just another thing.
Like everything can go wrong. Everything will go wrong. It's so dumb. I mean, like, I was just thinking that, I did 73 and I was nauseous and I was dehydrated, and I'm like, you'd think I could figure this out by now, but every time there's still something that just sucks that you're like, what I usually do is not working, so what am I going to do?
Yep.
There's always troubleshooting, even running them off, and it's still a hard task. It really is.
Anything can happen on race day.
Yes, it is so true. And it's always the thing you don't prepare for.
Absolutely.
Totally.
You always learn something in every race.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Well, you by no means have you picked easy 100-milers. As we look through your list here, and I see the things that you've been running. I mean, you did. And a couple that's local to us here. You did No Business. You got the double buckle there, but
twice.
Well, what I was noticing is you ran Grindstone, you ran Rule Jewel. I mean, you've done some pretty hard races. Beast of the East 100, that one's in North Carolina. I've looked at that one. That one has a lot of elevation, just like Rule Jewel.
It does, yeah.
I mean, you've done some really hard 100s. So that's, how long did it take you to finally feel like you understood like how to do nutrition, manage your stuff? Did that first race just go like, was it just a complete disaster, or did you manage it pretty well?
The first one I attempted was a complete disaster. Like at 60 miles, I was vomiting and had diarrhea, and I was like crawling on the ground to try and get behind a tree so I didn't soil myself. It was awful, and I couldn't even get up off the ground. I was moaning, and I just thought, I can't go on. I'm done. And then I was so mad at myself because I woke up the next morning, my legs were fine, and I was like, I should have just gone, So, but the one that I actually finished, it was flawless. I mean, I didn't get sick. I was eating good. It was a beautiful course. It was a road course, a Lighthouse 100 up in Michigan. And, I mean, I'm sure I had some stuff that went wrong, but I don't remember any of it. I think my headlight lamp wasn't working, so I'd used my phone for a while. No, in fact, it was my fastest one for a long time, and I was like, why are these other races? Why am I throwing up? Why am I DNFing? Because that one went that one went so well, but it was a process. I discovered Zofran, and that made a big difference. I think when I discovered Zofran, like my finish rate went up dramatically.
Oh, that's also, yes.
Yeah,
That saved a lot of money.
Yeah.
I
You
know.
know what?
It's true.
There's no shame in the ultra game. It's
No.
open game. Something's
Yeah.
going to come out of a hole at some point. Just be prepared.
Yeah. Right. It's true.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
And usually it's the first couple of hundreds when you figure that out, because
Yeah.
I mean, it's and everybody's a little different. Like
They
what
are.
your stomach can handle and what you can eat.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah, exactly. And it's different for you too, like the temperature and the terrain. I mean, it really gauges what you can eat. And I really fell in love with the symbolism that I found in running 100 milers, especially talking about suicide awareness, because every time you reach a point where you don't want to go on, you want to quit, and everything hurts and you have pain and everything's screaming at you, to stop, and the decision to just like keep moving forward, keep taking a step, and that eventually, like the morning, that second sunrise is going to come, the light's going to come, and you'll be fine. And that was just so like such a powerful symbol, I think, of life, and what we go through in life, and people who are struggling with depression and mental health, and want to quit, and just they can't, all you see is dark and you're alone, and but you just keep on keeping on, you don't give up, and eventually it comes to an end. There's there's light at the end. So I love that so much that it's kept me going, and every time when it's hard like that, I'm like, this is a symbol, this is important.
That's definitely a way to look at it. I've never thought about it from that whole perspective, but you're 100% right. Like to keep moving forward, to keep trying, to keep fighting. I mean, when you're doing 100-miler, you're kind of living a whole life in a day.
Oh, yeah.
So you experience the highest of high and the lowest of
Right.
lows all in 24
Right.
hours.
It's true. It's true.
And to your point, like I think we all find it at some point, maybe not. There's a few races that go here and there where, it's flawless, but not many.
Yeah,
Most
not many.
There's some point in your race where you're just trying to talk yourself into hanging on for just a few more miles to try to figure it out, and you're just kind of fighting with everything you got.
Right.
That's that moment when it matters, and I've never really thought about it from that perspective, but that's amazing. I'm glad you brought that up. Like it's kind of inspiring to hear, and that's kind of what I guess has drawn you to keep doing this, is to that's pretty amazing.
And I love that, like the healing. I think the healing that comes in trail running, like it talked about the therapy, and I think the strength that you develop, and like the character that you develop when you are learning to exercise that, your spirit, the power of your spirit and your will over the physical body, that, if you can go out and finish a race like that, you can get through anything, because life is really hard. Outside of running, there's a lot. Everybody's got catastrophes that they're dealing with, and trauma, and bad things and hard things and struggles, and when you develop that will that you can push through those night miles and you can get to the finish line, you kind of become bulletproof a little bit to some of the things in life, I think. So
and it definitely helps you build your mental endurance. It is being able to overcome things and deal with the upsets in life. It kind of does help you prepare a little bit for that. It doesn't necessarily make it easier, but it makes you understand that you can push through that.
You can do it. That's right. So yeah, I'm in love with it. It's hard, and sometimes I'm like, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? But I'm always
ask ourselves
that.
Definitely
I'm always
How do you like the community? Have you noticed? I would imagine doing your journey along 100 milers. has the community, like, has that drawn you in some too? Because it is definitely a
You
very
know,
special community.
yeah. Oh, the community's been so powerful, and I'll tell you, like after after you go through a suicide, it becomes very hard to be a part of a community. You really want to isolate, and the people who have known you and loved you, your family and friends, a child suicide kind of demolishes you on a whole new level. And the person you are, I mean, I hate to say it because I don't like to admit it, but you really kind of die with your child, and you have to rebuild as a new person, and the people that you're around don't really get it, and so you actually lose a lot of friends and a lot of family, and people just distance themselves from you. And when I came to the ultra running community, maybe it's because people have struggles and that's why they run. I don't know, but I felt like I was just embraced with like love and understanding as a broken person, and that was okay, and I could come out and I could just laugh and I could cry my eyes out and I could talk about my son and I could talk about these things, and nobody judged me, and people just accepted it, for me for who I was and where I was at in the journey, and encouraged me, and like they've been incredibly just so supportive.
I mean, the community overall is just so amazing and so
Yeah.
open. There's very little judgment. It's more about
Yeah.
helping each other and camaraderie and being there
Absolutely.
for each other. And
Absolutely. Yep.
I mean, if you had to lose some additional weight to make that
Yeah.
step in where you're at now, that's unfortunately
Yeah.
that's part of the journey sometimes. I mean, people, as you grow, people don't always stay with you, and may not agree with what you're
Yeah.
doing. It doesn't mean what you're doing's wrong. It just means
Right.
that their journey with you has ended, and
Has ended.
they
Yeah.
were there for a reason, and now
Right.
they're not. And you'll find new people
Yeah.
that help you carry
Yeah.
yourself through
I'm
the
kind.
journey.
Yeah. I'm kind of going through that right now, a big time, and had to make a big life change, and two ultra runner friends of mine, Paul Tilley and Kevin Sylvie, they are the RDs here at Froggy Mountain, and they found out I was having some trouble and needed a place to land, and they're like, well, come on down here and help us put on this race, and you can just campground, you can just make a little home here. And so that's what I did. And we're
That's
just, it's funny because it's kind of like, I mean, trail runners aren't military, but I think we have, what do you call that, trauma bonding, when you're out running races together. Because I've run with those guys and they paced me and crewed me through races. And when you go through those experiences, you just form bonds of friendship that are just like family. And so yeah, I'm living that, and I'm so grateful for it, and I'm just super happy. So
Well,
yeah, it's helped a lot.
your story though reminds me just a little bit of the guest we had on here last week, just in a similar trajectory, like, or in a way. He didn't experience anything like you did, but he had some, dramatic stuff happen in his life, and he
Hmm.
turned on to running. But the thing that I think is really inspiring with all of this, and for you especially, is that from the point that you didn't want to get out of bed to where you're at right now shows and proves, like, I hope people listening to this that are going through things understand that what you feel like in that moment is not where your life's going to be at in 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Right.
You have
Right.
to change it. And you are living proof of what you can do if you put your mind to something. I mean, you experienced a huge tragedy to the point that you had no reason to get out of bed, didn't want to, and you're running down the street in the middle of the night just screaming and crying. Now you're 70 something races into a 100-mile journey. You've met some amazing people, but most importantly, you're inspiring people. And I
Thank
think you
you.
truly found a place to where you're mentally prepared and a lot more healthy in the position of being able to deal with that in a better way. I can't
Oh yeah.
imagine how hard it is to still continue to deal with it. I would imagine
Yeah.
even in your 100-mile races now, that still has a lot of, weight on you when you get into those
Oh,
low
for
moments.
sure. For sure.
So something that's carrying you. I
Yeah.
think it's kind of cool that your son called you out and said,
Mm-hmm.
"You can run 100 miles, Mom."
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of initiated this whole journey.
It
So
did.
that is so
Yeah.
amazing. And I'm
Yeah.
so inspired by you and the fact of where your life has been. Like, I would imagine in when he passed away, you never thought you would be where you're at today.
No. No, I mean you can't even hardly get through the next hour, let alone think down the road a few years. It's
So,
too overwhelming.
so to me, that is inspiring. Like the fact that
Mm.
you are where you're at now and you did that, that
Thanks.
gives everybody hope to see that you can. You can do the
get
things
through
you want
it.
to do. It's not going to be easy. I would imagine it's been hard as hell.
Yeah, and you never get over it, ever. It's something that's always with you, but you learn to. It becomes a part of you, honestly. You become a changed person, and that grief is like your friend. It's really love, and even though it's hard to carry, it's like it's your constant companion, and you just get used to each other. So, and I've been training for Ure 100, and I've been wearing I'm running that in July, but I've been doing Vert. I've been carrying like a 20-pound pack, And
Oh,
when I first put it on, I couldn't even lift it. Like trying to get on that sounds really wussy, but trying to lift it up and put it on my shoulders, it was kind of hard. But now I've gotten used to it, and I'm doing pretty good. It's still hard, but I can, I can do. We just did, I don't know, 14-mile run on Saturday. Without thinking about it much, and you kind of forget it's there sometimes, but it's always there. It reminds me of of my grief a lot. It's hard to pick up at first, but it's with you. You get stronger. But it's always on you. It's always on you. And some days you're like, this is really hard.
I couldn't imagine. But was there ever a time where, you were using running as your outlet to kind of deal with some of this, or all, I guess, most of this? Was there ever a time where you got injured and you couldn't run?
Yeah, I was I was training on the roller coaster on the Appalachian Trail and took a really hard fall and tore I got a meniscus tear and MCL. But when I went in to have that checked out, I found out that one of my knees was perfect, but one was bone on bone. And so I saw a surgeon, and he said, well, you need a partial knee replacement, but I'm not going to do it unless you give up running, because you can't have that done and keep running. Like, I was about number 28. I was far enough along that I was like, I can do this. And I mean, I honestly thought that I felt like I had been given, terminal cancer diagnosis. I went home and I cried for 2 days. I was like, there's no way, I can't stop. What am I going to do? So then I found a medical intercessor who got on the phone and made calls for me, and found a surgeon that worked with ultra runners. And he was like, that's just kind of old school. Like, the new technology is strong. I think you'd be okay. So yeah, I had a partial knee replacement in I think November 2022, and I've done like over 100 milers on it, and it's fine. I always wear a brace, so my race picture's always like stupid, except this big old clunky brace on it. But and my surgeon said you probably don't have to wear that. But for me, I know, I don't want to risk. If I take one bad fall, it's over. So I just wear it just to protect the joint. And so yeah, that was the big one.
How long was that duration for the surgery and getting back to running?
It was short. I had this. It was so I knew I needed the surgery, so I did like 300 milers on the knee that needed surgery. Solos because I was really slow because it hurt, but I did them anyway. But I had the surgery, and then in mid-November, and I wasn't sure how the recovery would go, but immediately after surgery, I hopped on the elliptical and just slowly cranked it all the way to, full max. I remember at Christmas the next month, I did 5 miles and they were 16-minute miles and they kind of hurt. But I thought, okay, if I can do 16-minute miles, that's under a cutoff. So I was like, I can do this. Even if I have to walk, I can do this. So, but I slowly picked it up the pace. And so, let's see, that was November. I did the first 100-miler February 25th, or the anniversary of Dexter's death. I was living in Berryville, Virginia at the time. So I had a route that I'd do every year on the anniversary that he passed away, where I'd run from Berryville to Washington, D.C., and run around the monuments and finish at the Marine Corps Memorial.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was my return. So let's see, November, December. So 2.5 months or so after I had surgery, I did the first 100-miler. And I woke up that morning with COVID. I was sick as a dog. And it was in the middle of this blizzard, rain, ice storm. That's what it was.
So
super sick. I didn't even know.
I'm never going to make another excuse. I'm done with my excuses. You've got 8 kids, you run a farm, you had a knee replacement, and you ran 73 ultras in 6 years.
Yeah.
I'm just not even going to make an excuse anymore for myself. So what does your training look like?
Well, it depends. If I'm doing a race a week apart, there's no training. That's all recovery. But ideally, I feel like 3 weeks is my favorite because it's enough time for me to recover, and I start getting anxious to get back out. So I'll run 100. I'll take a day off. I spend a week. I'll do 30 miles, just slow, and then I'll spend a week. I do 60 miles between trail and I used to do the elliptical, but now I'm doing all trail or road, and then bird or whatever, and then the race week I'll do maybe another 30, 35 miles or something. I usually just take one day off before the race, but I'll keep the days to 5, 8 miles or something like that. So on race week and the week after, and there's shorter miles. And so, but I do try and get in, at least 1 or 2 where I'm doing some harder pushing a little bit. So since I'm sorry, what's that?
I was gonna say that's quite a bit of miles. You're hitting about 60 miles a week.
Yeah, 60 average. It's been a little bit less. It's been closer to 50 the last couple months because I'm training for Ouray, and so everything is about vert. So I do less miles, but a lot of climbing. So there's been a lot of that going on lately.
Do you like the vert, or do you prefer flat?
I like the vert. Yeah.
That's right. I think most people do that are trail runners. Break it up.
Weird. Flat. I think flat is hard. You're done a lot faster, but it hurts because you just don't swap up those muscles.
Right.
Same muscles.
But yeah, it's true. But that being said, after doing some races, mountain races that take 40 hours or whatever, I'm totally happy to do a flat race that's get done by 26 hours. Is nice. So.
Well, speaking of the long races like that, is there one race on here that is the most special to you?
Yeah, gosh, there's so many, but I think the one that meant the most to me, because I got this shirt, Wear Blue, Run to Remember. They're a national veterans organization. They do the Blue Mile and the Marine Corps Marathon, and they're all about honoring through action. And this was not like a race, but it was a 100-miler. They sponsored me this last year to run the Marine Corps Marathon, and then continue and turn it into a 100-miler. And they turned it into a 2-month-long campaign for veteran suicide awareness and a national campaign, and where they would get people would join and they could do 100 things of effort, where, 100 miles in a month, or 100 push-ups in a month, or, something with that 100 number to like support, the 100 milers. So being a part of that national campaign, I had a chance to go to Washington, D.C., and I got to speak at a dinner with 4-star generals and the undersecretary of the VA. I got to help lay a wreath at Arlington Cemetery for, in Dexter's memory and wear blue, and that was like so like incredibly powerful. And then I was supported for the 100 miler, and they had people sign up to come out and run with me, and they wear their blue shirts, and we ran all around like the monuments. And after I ran the marathon, and then all around DC, we did loops basically around the mall. And then when I finished I got my buckle. They did a custom buckle it was called the Warrior 100, and it was awarded to me by the Secretary of the VA, which is a presidential appointed position. So that was really, it wasn't a race, but, like, am I not going to count that towards my 100 hundreds for, the 100 hundreds club? It was so amazing. And especially to, I thought if I never did another race, like being able to do something like that on a national level and be there at Arlington Cemetery with Dexter and, and, to go from being the mom that nobody knows with this tacky pictures on my pack to, standing there representing, heroes who've fallen by suicide. That was it wasn't a great course. The course was great, but it was all paved. It was paved, and it was in the city, and that really sucks, especially if you got to pee, and you're like down on the mall. It's like, where do you go? But no, it was just, and that community is a really powerful community. I really support that group and try and promote them, because, they're all about honoring, and there's something powerful, like, what it takes to put in the effort to run a race and to train, and the sacrifice that you make to train. And so when you take that and you take your eyes off yourself and you turn it into honoring someone who's like paid the ultimate sacrifice, I feel like it's just a really powerful way to honor, the fallen. And so I'm really passionate about their organization. So every race I'm wearing this shirt, or one of these shirts, and it's got a little flag on the sleeve. So like,
and they came out and ran some of the parts with you.
Oh, they did. They had the Women's Memorial at Arlington Cemetery. They were able to open that up as an aid station. So we would run a loop around the mall and then stop at an aid station. Yeah, it was really great. And we had like a professional photographer, and I had like 5 or 6 people running with me the entire time. They would trade off, and they arranged to have a guy on a bike who muled, and carried water and ginger ale and stuff like that for me. And so yeah, it was a big team effort.
The question that is going through everybody's mind right now.
Oh no.
Did they give you a buckle?
Oh, they did. A custom buckle.
Yeah, I remember she said that was
I wish if I was closer to my little house, I'd show it to you. I should have brought it up. I didn't know that they were going to, because when I run solos, I just buy myself a buckle. I'll go on like Etsy or eBay and find like a cool retro buckle or something that matches, and name my own race. I give it a name and blog about it. So I had one ready to go to be mine, but no, they did a really nice chrome, Warrior 100.
Send David a picture of that so we can post it up.
Okay, I will. It's beautiful. I'll send you a picture like of meeting the Secretary of VA and the Arlington picture. The whole thing was just it was so special.
In itself is just epic.
On the social media posts along your podcast.
And you know what else was really fun? It was fun to talk to because the dinner had, 150 people or something, and a lot of them were running the Marine Corps marathon. So it was kind of fun to go as like someone running a hunt. They're all there thinking they're all BA because they're about to do the marathon, and then you get to go and you're like, yeah, this is my 60th 100 miler or something. So like massage what you got. Yeah, exactly. That marathon though, it was no joke. It was so humid they ended up shutting down the course a lot of people had to get pulled from the race because they had like a record number of people going to the hospital. I had a guy who was a British army medic running with me, pacing that. And then while we were running, a woman like fainted on the ground right in front of us. So we had to stop and stay with her until like medical came. And so,
wow.
so it was rough.
By your side.
Yeah. But we did 100 miles out of it. Even though they closed that course, we kept going. So that's good.
That's really cool. I can't wait to see what this buckle looks like. I love
it's beautiful.
This buckle for you. That is so cool.
Thank you. It was so special. And, standing it, because Dexter, he was so patriotic. He loved our country. When he was in high school, he was reading books about, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, the Constitution, super patriotic. And we'd been to Arlington as a family, multiple times. And so to be there, with him and representing him and all the others, gosh, that was like a once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah.
It was a real gift.
You definitely know he's got to be proud of you. You're probably the only person in the world that's going to have a Marine Corps marathon buckle.
What year was that?
I know, right?
What year did you did that happen?
That was just this last October.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, recent.
Well, I'm so glad that he inspired you to do what you're doing, because you're inspiring a lot of people. And
thank you.
I mean, the fact that the Marine Corps even realizes what you're doing and how special it is. I mean, that's why they did this. So keep doing what you're doing. It's just
Thank you.
Your journey has by no means been easy. I can't even imagine some of the dark spots you went through and like this 40-hour cruel jewel. I mean, that's got to be hard, because that's got to weigh on you some and get in your head. At the same time, like you said, he's watching over you and he's with you while you're doing this. So I mean, he kind of set this whole thing in motion, which is pretty.
Yeah, it is, and he watches out for me. I mean, in races and in life, I feel like he's around. He keeps me safe. He keeps me from trouble. Oh. And I run with a group called 22 Too Many, and they're specifically for not just for all veterans, but for those who die by suicide. And they put out little pictures of the fallen military, and that you can print out. So I can fit 4 on my pack, and I have a little picture of Dexter I wear up front. So I carry one for Dexter, but I had a really great experience with him. It was probably my 5th or 6th. I can't remember exactly. I finished this 100-miler, and I just got this distinct thought from him, and he's like, Mom, you've run enough for me. Let's see if we can help somebody else. And so I started carrying. When I run, I carry other veterans on my pack and try and support the families of other veterans. And so it's not just Dexter. I got a whole team of Marines out there, and so I never afraid. Even of bears and snakes and things. I feel like, or creepy people. I feel like they're around, keeping, watching out for me. So,
well, usually if you're running 100-miler, you look just as creepy by the end. So they usually leave you alone.
This is true.
So let's talk a little bit, Rosie, before we jump into questions.
Okay.
Tell us. So I see the sign back there behind you.
Yeah.
But let's talk about. You said you are helping RD a race. Tell us about your race and give it a shout out here so people can hear about it.
All right. So last year when I ran, I told you how I do that solo run on the anniversary of Dexter's death. One of my good friend Paul Tilley, he came out and just volunteered to run it with me, so I didn't have to run alone. So we did that 100-miler together, and he owned this property. It's called Froggy Mountain, and we talked. He's created here. He has a 1.1 mile loop that winds through this. I don't know if you can see. Anyway, beautiful forest. It has just under 500 feet of vert per mile. So he was like, hey, we were talking while we were running. We're like, we should try and do 100-miler on that. How crazy would that be? Mind bending to see if we could do that much vert and that many loops and survive it. So So we got that idea. We were just going to do it, the two of us together last year. And then he decided to be like, you know what? Let's make this real. So he had a friend who, that arch back there, he made the race portal for us. And, there's a big, I'm in Galax, Virginia, and there's a big running community here. So he kind of spread the word and just told people, come out, run however many loops you can do. And let's see if we can create something here. And so Kevin and Paul, they got a couple. Let's see, I think there was 5 or 6 who showed up with the intent to try and actually run a full 100. And it's pretty crazy. It's not easy. It's not technical, but it's all up or down. And the way it winds through the woods, I was probably 25, 30 miles in before I was like, okay, this is dumb. It was pretty, and it's such a beautiful area that, the forest changes through the day and the evening, and so it's not as terrible as 90, I guess it's 90 or 91 loops sounds, but it was hard, and we gave ourselves a 60-hour cutoff because we weren't sure how long it was going to take. So I'm pretty poked.
That rough math is crazy, though, because you're talking 100. That's 50,000 feet of elevation gain.
Yeah, yes, it is. Ooh. Yeah,
and you know what my comment was when you told me about this race? I looked there and I said, "You need to make a last man standing there. That'd be awesome."
Yeah. I know. Yeah, Paul's talking about maybe doing that this fall. So we're gonna see how this goes. The two of the guys, like Paul and Zach, they're both super fast, super strong runners, and they left me in the dust early. I was just poking along way behind them, but that's a lot of vert and a lot of time and a long cutoff. And I'd already done some like double night races, and they hadn't, and so they ended up crashing and kind of sleeping more than they should have. And I just kept on going. So I actually won it.
I see.
So which was funny. But they are like super strong, and they, it took us all. I think it took me 57 hours, and they were behind. We thought we gave ourselves a generous cutoff, but it was rough. So it was a lot of vert. So we'll see how it goes.
Looks like you added a 50-mile option with the same 60 hours.
We did, yeah. Because we thought if we could get people out here excited for the 50 mate, because most people hear that, the number of loops and the vert combined, it's just ridiculous. But I got to tell you, it is the most fun. Okay, the Warrior 100 was my favorite, like most meaningful race. This is my favorite fun race because, and that's one reason why it actually took us so long. Because one of the RDs, Kevin, he is a gourmet chef, I swear.
Oh,
he runs the aid station, and he makes the best food you've ever had in your life. I am not kidding. And he cooks for everyone, special to order how you want it. And then he's a talker. So every loop, you have the temptation to stop and eat these gourmet meals, and he's like a walking TED Talk of enthusiasm and encouragement. And so you're like, okay, so I'm going to sit here and he's going to tell me I'm a winner and I can do this and feed me amazing food. I'm going to stop for 99 loops. So this year I'm going to tell him, listen, you can only feed me every 4th loop or something. Let's see if I can cut the time down. Because really, we spent a lot of time just talking and having fun. And it just has a good vibe. Yeah. And the town is beautiful. This place that we're at is beautiful. It's so green and pine trees. And we held that last year we did it in July, and we thought that would be miserable, but it really doesn't get hot here. So the temperature's comfortable, and everybody camps out because this is kind of a campground. So, you just bring your tent, camp out, hang out with food. And so it's kind of really a fun party. It's got a great vibe, and the frogs are cool. And Paul put together some fantastic, made in the USA buckles, and they're good looking. So it's great. Awesome. It's fun.
Well, and And it looks like it's on Ultra Sign Up, so it's live
It
if
is.
anybody wants to register. Froggy
It
Mountain
is.
100.
Mm-hmm.
And you can register up till the day of, when we ran it last year, a good friend of mine, Adam, drove all the way from Ohio, and he thought, he's like, maybe I'll just come down and do a marathon. He decided the night of, he packed up his car and came down, and he ended up finishing 100 miles. So,
Wow.
yeah, no, he'd been hit by a car and had traumatic brain injury, concussion, and almost died. So, and this was like kind of a big deal. He wasn't even sure he could do the marathon, and so he went beyond the cutoff, but he stuck around, and they fed him, kept him going so that he could finish a full 100 milers here. So he's on there too. But I mean, he made he made the decision the night before and came down to finish. So you can wait and decide, but anyway, you
Rosie
won't find
just
a
keeps
better
throwing out
party.
all these little inspiring stories. She's just
I
like,
know, like,
you,
yeah,
you've surrounded yourself with some pretty amazing people
yeah.
like yourself. So
I'm super fortunate. Yeah, they're all winners, really.
that's amazing. Well, I hope that you get some good runners from the East Coast Adventures Dirt and
I
Vert
hope
listeners here.
so.
So that's
I hope.
that's definitely a challenge. 50,000 feet of elevation
Yeah.
gain in 100 miles. So
A lot.
get your trekking poles ready.
Yeah, you want your poles for sure.
But yeah, that's pretty awesome. And if you do, if you do any other things with that race, let us know. We'll help share it and get it out there.
All right, for sure.
Especially
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
do ending this fall, let us
Yeah.
know. We'll share it to
Okay,
our group.
yeah, they do a small, like a 10K in January every year, which always brings people out, and it's like all the locals know it's here, so people come here and train. Just random cars will pull up, and we'll have people out running the loop and stuff, and so it's a fun place. So.
Cool.
That's really cool. Well, Rosie, at this point, we're going to ask you the question that we ask every listener while Matt starts to try to find this list that he loses in every
Okay.
podcast. The questions list. And don't be shocked if, Kiss or Aerosmith or somebody starts playing here in a minute, or Def Leppard.
I think we're good on that. I think
Oh,
Brian
no.
hasn't tagged us today.
Okay.
The question that we always start with on this piece is just, and I think you've explained this already, but I want you to just kind of sum it up. And it's,
Okay.
why do you run? Like when those moments are so hard and you really just don't feel like going any step further, why do you do it? What keeps you going?
I think that's why I run, because I need to keep taking the steps and moving, and I have to be able to do it. And everything you do is learned and practice and habit. And if you don't do it, then you're stationary. You're not moving forward. You can get stuck in your personal growth and stuck in grief, stuck in being sedentary, or whatever you're in, and we're always moving forward. If people, especially if you lose someone, people are in a hurry to have you move on and want you to leave stuff behind, leave your grief behind or your sadness or whatever. But I always just I love the thought that you're moving forward, and I do that in races, and you do that through hard things. Some things you can't get over, but you can keep moving forward. So, and I just running as a representation of that.
Yeah. No, great answer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Matt?
All right, we got a few questions from listeners. Then I got a few just generic questions that I ask.
Okay.
The first one is, what upcoming race are you most looking forward to?
Well, I have to say Froggy Mountain for fun, but I've been training since fall for Ouray 100, which is in July in Colorado, and that has, high altitude, 41,000 feet of gain, and I've heard it's one of the hardest, if not the hardest I don't know if it's the hardest, but it's definitely one of the hardest in the country. So
Yeah.
I'm excited and terrified, very terrified. I don't know that I have the skills to finish it or the pace to finish it, but I am going to try.
You
give it my
got a
best.
perfect place to train out there for that much elevation.
Yeah, exactly.
The next one says, will you be doing any solo efforts in the near future associated with your 100/100s?
I really love solos, and it kind of irks me that they're not counted for the 100/100s club because I think they're harder than a race. You don't have the support. You don't have people cheering you on and cooking you food, ringing you cowbells. It's just you and the miles. I really loved them. I did a couple out in Colorado, which I loved, getting out in the mountains. But I also really want to be on that 100/100s list. So I think for the yeah. So I think I'm gonna try and stick to official races until I get that. Although I will probably always, I was gonna say I will always do a solo on the anniversary of Dexter's death, but I actually did a race this year on that day and it ended up being a really good one. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I do love solos. They're great.
I've never done 100 solo. That would be hard. That would be hard.
We talked about 130K. Me and you doing that. That's still.
Do that one.
Yeah,
So Rosie, you could set up just a thought. I mean, since you're already race directing now, you could set up a virtual race on your son's anniversary.
Yeah.
Let your sign up. Have it free entry. It costs you nothing. People can sign up, and that's an official race.
Right. They don't count virtual races either.
Oh, crap.
I know.
They showed up at you, then. So.
I know. So that's why I think I need to rewrite the book on this list.
Well, I guess you're just going to have to hold a 100-mile race on your son's, the anniversary.
Yeah, I know.
That's Rocky Mountains.
I know. I might. I'm thinking about. I've got some ideas of that. Oh yeah.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. This one says, when you run these long races, do you ever feel like your son is with you?
Every single one. Everyone. It's funny though, like as I've gotten to know more people and I have people volunteer to pace or crew or whatever, and like if I have someone out there with me, I love the company and I love that we're talking, and I'm really grateful for the interaction, and I definitely won't change it. But what I find when I'm alone is when he's there the most. He's like, okay, mom's got somebody, I'm busy doing other stuff, but as soon as I'm alone, then he's there. So I love pacers, but sometimes I'll be like, well, pick me up at like mile 70 so I can have some of those. And usually it's the late and the hard miles. So I actually did Cruel Jewel without crew or pacers, and that was really a good, because I've had a lot of pacers lately, and that it was nice to get out and just do a full race on my own, because that presence was a lot stronger than it is sometimes.
Do you believe that's what gives you the strength in some of these races?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, his help. And I mean, it may sound woo-woo to some people, but I've had specific, I'll never forget one race I was dying. I was like a few minutes above the cutoff. I didn't think I was going to be able to make it. I was sick, throwing up, and I literally heard his voice whisper in my ear, orange juice. And I was like, what? Orange juice? Okay, so I get to the aid station and I'm like, I need orange juice. Does anyone have orange juice? They didn't have oranges. They didn't have orange juice. But one of the race directors was like, oh, I've got a couple bottles in my tent. I'll go get them for you. And it changed, it was a game changer. Drank the orange juice down and took care of whatever issues I was having and finished. And
was that the first time you ever had orange juice in a race?
Oh yeah, and you wouldn't think orange juice because you think it would give you heartburn, but so yeah. So I use orange juice.
He was definitely looking out for you.
He was. I mean, I never used it, and who would have thought? So yeah, and it's like not at aid stations. It's not something they have usually.
I can honestly say we've never had orange juice.
Never had them.
Yeah, I know. You never seen them. Yeah, so.
We've had some unusual stuff at our aid stations.
I know. So, did my brain just tell me that, or was that my son? I think it was my son. So, it's what it is.
So these next couple are just some of the running questions that we usually get. What is your favorite hydration?
Hydration? I've got 3: liquid IV, chocolate milk, and orange or apple juice.
I am so glad to hear you say chocolate milk. That's like my
Isn't
favorite
it the best?
drink to
I
me. I
know.
love chocolate milk.
Same. It's so good. And
I just can't do it.
If you buy the Nesquik bottles, they don't have to be refrigerated, so you can just throw them in your drop bags, and yeah, good stuff.
I agree. I love it.
Yep.
Man.
And I mean, it can be the middle of the day, as hot as can be, and I can chug a chocolate milk and just keep
I
rolling.
know. And it's got everything, and it's loaded with carbs and potassium, magnesium.
And if you drink the real stuff, you're getting like 60 grams of sugar. You're ready to roll.
Oh yeah, and protein. I mean, it is. Yeah,
Yes.
and it's not like sweet like gel. Like, it's really easy to get down. Like, it's always good.
Gels are rough.
Yeah, gels are garbage. I don't do gels at all. Nope.
What kind of pack do you use?
I have been buying. I discovered one. It's like called the Jurek FKT pack, and they don't even make them anymore. But I absolutely love it. So I scour eBay for used ones and buy the used ones because it has like 10 pockets up front. And I'm not very fast. I used to be like more towards the back. Now I'm kind of middle of the pack. But some races I'm still pushing cutoffs, especially if I'm doing hard one like grindstone, or they're qualifier races where you got to make cutoffs. I don't have time to stop and dig through and try and find stuff. I want everything that I can get on the go. So yeah, I love. So if you ever come across one, it's great. And I cannot find a single pack that they're currently making that has that many pockets. So it's the best. Yeah, I know.
What kind of shoes do you wear?
Almost always Hoka Speed Goat. 4s or 5s usually. And like I race these add up so much, so I'm always on a tight budget. So I don't even buy them new. I go to eBay and buy secondhand ones that still have good tread.
Yes.
And then I wear them forever until they're like almost bald. Well, what I do is I wear them until I can't grip the trails anymore, and then I turn them into road shoes. So that I wear them, and then I wear them until they're bald. So.
I wore Speedos 5 all last year, and they did good.
Yeah, they are good.
They didn't cause no blisters.
Yeah, same. I mean, occasionally I get one, but 90% of the time, no blisters, no sore feet. They're just great.
They lasted me the whole Georgia Jewel. No blisters, no sock change, or nothing.
Nice. Yep, they're great.
That is all the questions I have.
All right.
I have a last question, and it's more of giving you some praise, but I didn't even see this on your list. So I just want to say, you've got 52 races total on your ultra sign up.
Ultra sign. Mm-hmm.
And I know that's not all the races that you've done.
Right. Yeah. There's other run sign up and some other. Yeah.
But you have several podium finishes, and one of them got to. I'm pretty amazed at how I just skipped right over this. But you did a 200 miler, right? Did you do the Buckeye 200? Yeah,
I did. Yeah.
And not only that, but you finished it. Like, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I ran that one. It was a virtual, and I ran that on Dexter's anniversary of his death. Ran from home to DC, around the memorials, and then all the way back home again.
Wow.
But I won the virtual on that. I took the fast.
That is amazing.
So.
Well, and I see that you already have quite a list filled out for the rest of the year, which I'm sure you'll be adding more.
Coming up, yeah. There's a few.
But, it looks like you're picking some hard races again. Beast of the East, and, Ouray is not by no means an easy race. And then Froggy Mountain, you're about to climb Mount Everest twice, I would assume.
Yeah, so. Right. Yeah. I've got Grindstone. That's a tough one on there.
Yes.
So.
And again, Cruel Jewel. That race is over 30,000 feet elevation gain. That's no easy journey either.
No.
But yeah, I just love the fact that you just bounce around everywhere with your races, whether it's a fast race or a trail race or a mountain race. You just go after it, and there's no fear there. And just like Cruel Jewel, you did it with no pacer.
Yeah. I've been trying to work my way up into hard races because they're Marines. I feel like if I'm gonna honor them, I want to do the hard stuff, So
you're doing the hard stuff. Yeah. So one last thing though, if anybody wants to follow along on your journey, are you on social media where they can follow you?
Yeah, I don't really do much on Instagram. I have my own personal Facebook page. I think it's public, just Rosie Gagnon, Rosie Nanette Gagnon. And then I've got one for my runs that's 100 hundreds for Dexter.
Okay.
So, and I keep that up to date too, I put like my blog on it, and if I'm running a race, whatever races I'm doing, I put on there. So.
See, Rosie, you can tell people are interested when two of the people sitting beside me automatically pull their phone up and start looking for this.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so it's a number one. It's a number one, and then the word 100, and then was that right? No, and then hundreds 100s 100s, and then a number 4 Dexter. But number 4 Dexter. Is that right? One, or maybe it's. Oh no, sorry. The first one is spelled out. I think it's spelled out ONE 100.
I got it. It's 100.
Did you find it? Okay.
It's number one.
Number one. Me as 100.
Can you add me as an invite?
S for Dexter.
Yeah. Perfect. And we will, if you'll remind me, Matt, Mike, don't let me forget, but we'll put that on your Instagram and Facebook post too, where people can follow. They do and follow on it, because that's really cool.
Thank you.
Rosie, do you have any questions for us?
No, I don't think I have any questions for you, but I'm really grateful for you for having me on. I think that, something I find when I'm out running, you kind of hope to be like a big change in the world, but most of us are small people and we don't make big changes, but we can make small changes. And every time I'm out running, like, it never fails. I always encounter someone who has lost someone to suicide, has struggled with suicide, is in the military and has friends who have post-trauma. There's always someone. Every race I go to, I find someone who's affected in some way by this, and just the conversation, being open about it and talking freely about it, helps to break down stigma about the subject, and people, when you talk about it, people are more likely to seek help. And so, like, I'm just so grateful every time I get a chance to have any platform just to have a conversation about it. And also, I'm really passionate about, like, grief awareness and child loss, because, a lot of people who go through these things, especially with suicide, they end up just keeping it to themselves and suffer alone. And I'll never forget when I spoke that race I told you about that I did with Wear Blue. When I spoke at the dinner, the undersecretary of the VA got up and spoke, and he told everyone about how both his father and his sister had died by suicide. And he said that he had never told anyone that before until that dinner, that he'd always lied and said, oh, he died of a heart attack or a car accident or whatever, and because of the stigma that he had just suffered alone and never told anyone. And because we had created this safe environment where we were talking about it openly and without shame, and he felt safe to share that, like, and he's a government official sharing this personal story with strangers, and there's just so much power in that. So I just really appreciate you guys having me on and letting me talk about it. So,
well, and I just want to say, like, what you're doing and what you're going to do. I mean, you're already touching and inspiring so many people, and you're opening a door for people to be able to talk about the things that they've not talked about. You obviously just gave us an example of that, but none of that would have happened without your son pointing you in the direction that he had sent you.
He
started,
yeah,
and you're going to finish it. And you're going to touch so many people's lives along this journey. I mean, just like Tim met you And, he automatically sends us a message and, he's telling me like, you've got to get her on the podcast. And he shares the story and I read it.
Really nice.
Like, you're absolutely right. I said, we want her on here as soon as possible.
That's really nice.
Of what you're doing. And and you're doing it in such a special way too, the way that you're doing it, because you're having, not only did you struggle to get to this point, but you put yourself in a position of struggle every time you do this, and people see that and they're inspired by it. And you're not doing it to get attention. You're doing it partially for your healing, but also to help people to have an outlet to see that, things can get better and you can push through things. And your example of an ultra and how, things get hard and you can find a way is absolutely true. And if you only touch one person's life period and you save them, it all mattered.
Yeah.
And you've already done like you've already helped people open up and talk about their problems. Rosie, just keep doing what you're doing, and we can't wait to follow along on your journey. If there's anything that we can ever do to help you, we would love to even have you back on here at some point to celebrate your 100/100s.
That'd be so great. I'd love it.
You're on a fast pace to blow that out of the water. So when you get there, we want to have you on here and celebrate you.
Yeah.
That's a deal. That would be great. I love that. It gives me the opportunity to, say Dexter's name and make sure that he's not forgotten us. So it's a blessing for me, and I'm grateful for that. So.
Well, and speaking of that, before we close the call, will you send us a picture of him as well? We would like to put that on the social media with your post.
Absolutely. Okay.
So that people can see Dexter.
That'd be great. I would love that.
Matt, Mike, you all have anything you want to close with?
Nope. Just want to say thank you on my side of it and everything. Your story's very inspirational. You've kind of touched on everything. I was going to be like, what should anybody going through this kind of do to reach out? But I think on our side of it, we just reach out to people when you're running. I mean, just be open to their story, etc. You never know who, might know us, talk them away, or just listen. Just be kind and listen.
Right. That is right.
You're absolutely living proof of you never know what somebody's going through at that start line.
True. That's true. Yep. There's a lot of people hurting, and there's a lot of love in the ultra running community. We can help each other at the very least.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right.
Well, Rosie, thank you so much for being on here and taking the time to, share your story and your journey. And I know that's hard to talk about, but you said it so well. And I just appreciate you opening up and bringing all that out so that people can truly just understand the journey you've been through and the journey he went through. So thank you so much for all of that. And we wish you the best. And we will definitely have you back on here to celebrate.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Rosie.